my gardening tribe, how are you doing? I'm Komal and welcome to my channel Evan Hobby Gardener. In this video I'm going to show you step by step how to prune your roses and also when to do it, why we do it, and what to do after you're done with pruning your roses. So this video is going to be absolutely information packed. By the way, if you are new to this channel, I do make free educational videos about all things gardening related, so be sure to subscribe to my channel and press that bell icon so you don't miss any of my future updates. Also, I post a lot of tips on my Facebook page, so be sure to check out Urban Hobby Gardener on Facebook too. Okay guys, let's first talk about timing, because timing is just as important as technique. So in terms of when you want to prune your roses, you want to hard prune your roses in winter. Okay, now hard pruning means we're taking off about close to 1/3 to 2/3 of the plant, and I'll show you the before and after as well in a bit. Now the pruning that you want to do in winter, okay, you don't kind of just start pruning the minute winter starts. Okay, when exactly in winter you do your pruning depends on where your beautiful garden is. Now, I am in a cool temperate region, kind of like the equivalent of a USDA Zone 10. So here in Southeast Australia, our winter months are June, July and August, which for my Northern Hemisphere viewers would be the equivalent of December, January and February. Now my roses are, still blooming till about the end of June, okay, so till about the first month of winter, okay, so I wait till about mid-July to do the pruning because that is when my roses are dormant, okay, so you always want to wait till your roses enter dormancy in winter before you start pruning. Another thing is, I don't have frost in my garden, but if you're in an area that gets frost in your garden, you'd want to wait until all the chances of frost has passed, but before your rose plant breaks its dormancy. Okay, so now here in my garden, if I can't get around to doing it in the ideal time of mid-July, I also have time till about early August to do it. Okay, so that's usually about a 3-odd week window in which I can get my rose pruning done. Now this is what my Double Delight rose plant looks like before pruning. This is the height of my rather disheveled looking Floribunda roses. And this is the height of what I call my rose bush. I'm not actually exactly sure of which variety this is, so I just colloquially, refer to it as commonly referred to it as a rose bush. Now all you need to prune your roses is basically a clean pair of secateurs. Okay, now as you saw, I have 3 different rose plants. And every time I'm switching between the rose plants, I actually clean my secateurs. And the reason I do that is so that there is no cross-contamination. If there happens to be, say, fungal disease on one plant, but it's not on the other one, I don't want to kind of, cross-contaminate my plants. It's very important that you're always using clean garden equipment anytime, whether you're pruning roses or whether you're pruning any other kind of plants you have. Always use clean equipment. And just really quickly, why we prune roses? Well, there's quite a few reasons. For example, when you're pruning your roses, you're reducing its chances of developing fungal infection over winter, for example. But if there is one key takeaway that you want to take out from why we prune our roses, is just remember this: if you give your rose plants a good hard prune over winter, it's going to bless you with lots and lots of blooms come spring and summer. Sorry guys, I almost forgot to tell you that there are actually 2 ways in which you can prune your roses. So one is you're basically taking a hedge trimmer and go all the way over it. The other way, which is the one that I'm going to show you in this video, is the more meticulous way of doing it, and I'll show you exactly what kind of things you need to look out for. Okay, so hopefully even if you are an absolutely new novice gardener and you're about to tackle rose pruning for the very first time, I hope this video gives you enough confidence to be able to do your very first rose pruning. Alright guys, let's get started. Okay, so tip number one, okay, when you are pruning your roses, you want to do it at a 45-degree angle. Okay, and the reason we do it at a 45-degree angle is because anytime it rains, okay, you want that water to basically not just sit on the plant, you want it to run off. Okay, now obviously one question is, do you cut it at a 45-degree angle facing this way, or do you cut it at a 45-degree angle facing that way? Now, given the position of where this particular branch is, it doesn't really matter, but as I kind of tackle, you know, the branches that are more in the center of this plant, it would start making a difference, because I want to try and have as much water running away from the center of the plant rather than inside the center of the plant. Okay, so when you are making a 45-degree cut, you basically want to you know, have it slope away from the center of the plant. Now guys, tip 2, okay, because you kind of need to consider tip 1 and 2 together, because that is about where exactly on this long branch do I make a cut at that 45-degree angle. Now I could make a cut kind of up here, I could make it down here, I could make it even further down here. Now somewhere around down here would be ideal, because that means I'm taking off about 2/3 of this branch and leaving about 1/3, which is basically your ideal pruning height. Okay, but you also need to consider exactly where your buds are facing. Now here's a little close-up. Okay, now this particular bud, okay, is facing out towards the garden, but this particular bud here, okay, is facing basically towards this brick wall. So if I make an incision right here, okay, that means I'm taking away this bud that is going to face towards the brick wall. But if I make an incision here, I'm basically allowing this bud to grow towards the brick wall, and I'm taking this particular bud away, which is facing out towards the garden. Okay, so ideally when you are trying to find a spot to make an incision into your plant, you want to find a bud which is facing away from the center of, okay, away from the center of the rose plant, away from, you know, any kind of brick walls or basically a house structure, and facing more towards the garden. So there you go guys, I have located my bud. My secateurs is at a 45-degree angle, and I am taking, I'm making a cut, I'm pruning my rose branch just over that bud. So this is the bud just right there, and I am making an incision just right there. Ta-da! And we are done. Okay, now there are a few more tips. Okay, so let me clean my secateurs, and I'm going to take you over to the other rose plant to explain those tips. Now, sometimes when you are trying to look for that bud to make an incision, okay, they're not always as pronounced, like you can see in this one here. Okay, I'll kind of put my hand behind it so hopefully you can see that better. Okay, the bud is not as pronounced, but you will see that, you know, it still kind of gives you an indication as to in which direction that bud is going to go. Okay, and then there'll obviously be kind of other buds that are a lot more advanced. So if I take you up here, I've got, you know, one bud that is just right there, which is at, you know, quite an advanced stage. Okay, and then there is obviously kind of a bud right next to it, okay, kind of just above it, if my camera focuses well, okay, where, you know, it is not as kind of advanced. So it's like this particular shoot is kind of going to grow like that, is going to kind of grow like that, and this one is kind of going to, I guess, come out more like that. So there is a possibility that one of these could get intertwined. So what I would do is I'll make an incision just right there, okay, so that this bud kind of goes away, but this other bud ends up staying. Now on this particular rose plant, oh, and just to kind of retract a little bit, in case you're wondering what I cleaned my secateurs with, I just use, like, you know, normal disinfectant wipes, so it's pretty quick and simple. Now on this rose plant you will see that I have lots of you know, like dead wood, okay, this brown stuff, Okay, so not like green stems like this, not like, you know, the olive green stems, or even kind of like the more you know, any kind of the more bright green stuff. Okay, just really kind of hard brown stuff like that. Okay, you want to get rid of this because nothing is going to grow on really old brown stems like that. So we call this old wood. Okay, so you want to basically get rid of all of this. Okay, so I'm going to make a kind of incision on this, you know, all these kind of wood, okay, as close to the base of the plant as possible. Okay, and that way I'm kind of making sure that, you know, this plant is not going to use up too much energy, okay, on things that it doesn't really need. So even like, you know, this thing here, okay, I don't need it, so I'm going to make an incision as close to the actual plant as possible. And there we go. Okay, now I do have some bigger secateurs, so on the kind of more broader stuff, what I'd do is I'd kind of, you know, the ones that are broader stemmed, I'll just end up using kind of, you know, my bigger secateurs, but I'll see what I can do with these small ones until it's time to change. Tip number 4, another thing you want to focus on is any kind of, you know, intertwining branches you have. Like, look at this one here. It's kind of like going from here, looping in, then going there, then coming, you know, out from the other side. You don't want things like that, okay? You want, basically, you want to try and create as much space and airflow in the center of the plant, because that really helps check fungal diseases like black spot, you know, under control, or even, you know, fungal diseases just kind of on your stems under control, okay? So any kind of intertwining branches, you want to get rid of those as well, okay? And same thing, so I'm just going to do a quick check that, okay, this goes right around here, okay, and I'm going to follow it right through and just check that does it have any, you know, green stems that it is supporting, okay, or can I just safely get rid of that. Okay, now this is basically that branch there, which is part of that round thing, and there is absolutely no greenery directly attached to that thing, so I can quite safely, okay, get rid of a few leaves so I can see more clearly. Okay, I can quite safely just make an incision just right there and get rid of that entire branch out. You see how badly intertwined that is? I mean, I can't even just pull it straight out of the thing, so I'm gonna have to chop it into more tiny bits and pieces there. Okay guys, I'm about to show you what my rose plants now look like now that I've finished pruning it. Now, it is going to look very drastic, but remember, that is the reason why it's called hard pruning, okay? Because we are literally taking off 1/3 to 2/3 of the plant. Now, what happens if you don't quite prune the right way, okay? Well, I guess the worst that can happen is that you don't get as many blooms as you typically should after a good prune. Okay, that is kind of like the worst that could happen. If this is the first time you're pruning it and you're not feeling too comfortable taking about, like, you know, taking literally 2/3 of the plant out, okay, then at least take 1/3 of the plant out, and then when you feel a lot more confident, you can kind of go further down. Now, obviously, if you're going to prune your plant right towards the bottom, okay, that's probably the only time you're, you know, going to end up killing the plant. But as long as you're keeping a minimum of 1/3 of the plant, okay, chances of you killing the plant is like next to zero. Now, this is what my rose bush looks like after it's had a good prune. I told you it's going to look drastic, didn't I? This is the Double Delight rose. I could technically, you know, still prune a little bit more, kind of those two stems that are kind of sticking up. I could technically do that, but I decided to just kind of leave it because I have some nice healthy set of leaves coming out of it already. So I was like, meh, alrighty, I'll leave it this time around. And this is the Floribunda roses. So you can see it literally looks as if something has just massacred it. Now let's look at two things you need to do after you've finished pruning your rose plant. But before I go into those two things that you need to do, I just want to quickly say, if you have liked this video so far, remember to give it a like and a share. Okay, so the two things you need to do are, you want to spray your rose plant with a good fungicide, okay, and that way you're protecting your plant from any potential fungal diseases until it's ready to bloom again, okay. The other thing you want to do is you want to fertilize your plant, okay. Now, don't fertilize your plant straight away. So you can spray the fungicide straight away after you've finished pruning, but for fertilization, wait till at least about 3 weeks before you fertilize your plant. Alright, so guys, I really hope you found this video helpful. Until my next video, happy gardening!